Eleanor, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to talk to you about not only your business success journey, but your health success journey and how it's impacted your business. So, can you take us back to your early days? When you were just starting in the corporate world or in your business, and tell us about what your ambition looked like then and how you showed up.
I mean, I have always been driven by a really big and meaningful desire to help women create financial autonomy. And that sort of dates back to being a girl. We're immigrants to Canada. My mom is from the Fiji Islands. My dad was Welsh. When we moved to Canada, it was because my dad got a job as a prof. But my mom, it was a new country, new education system. So her teaching credentials weren't recognized. And it was a completely different culture here. So they made the decision as a family that she would stay at home and raise the kids, and my dad would work and bring home the bacon. And that mostly worked, except sometimes they'd have disagreements about how to invest or spend money. My mom was more of an investor. She wanted to take more risk. My dad was an economist. They don't call it the dismal science for no reason. And I can remember her driving me to basketball room practice one day, and she was so mad because they'd had a disagreement about money. And because she wasn't an earner, she felt that she didn't have as much of a voice, And whether that was actually true or it was a perception, but I know how that can feel. Like if you don't have the money, sometimes it can feel like you don't have the same level of voice around financial decisions. So she's like, Eleanor, money is power. Always make your own. So I was always drawn to, whether I was a journalist, I was always drawn to telling stories of women leaders and CEOs and entrepreneurs and how they built their business. And then when I ultimately started my own coaching and consulting business, I was just so invigorated at the idea of helping women be more financially successful. So that's been like the thread that's gone through my entire career.
That's amazing. And I mean, ultimately, you do a phenomenal job of doing that.
Thank
So,
you.
congratulations on that for sure. Was there ever a point in your career where you felt there was a resistance to grow or a bottleneck in your own energy capacity because there was something physical happening in your life? Maybe emotional too. I won't put it to just physical.
Oh my gosh, so many. I am a type A person and a driver, and I actually have I'm fairly emotionally the same. So I just am quite steady as a person. I'm extremely emotive and I talk with my hands. There's a lot of energy when I'm communicating. But the reality is that I'm relatively steady state when it comes to my emotion. And I don't mind working hard, and I have a lot of energy. So what can happen sometimes is that I don't listen to my body. So my body, like if it needs to communicate with me, it's going to do so fairly dramatically, So for instance, and there's two typical ways. One, I get sick, or two, I lose my voice. Those two, have been like really over and over and over and over, like throughout my entire career. Those two pieces they've come into play every time I need to kind of talk to myself and have a little step back and prioritize taking care of myself or reprioritize my energy. So that has happened over and over the years, for sure.
I find it so interesting that it's losing your voice because you, having a podcast, you are a business coach and you do a lot of keynote speaking.
Totally.
So it's literally your body is saying, I'm going to prevent you from doing the thing that's like, I'll say burning you out. I hate the term, but it's literally stopping you.
I can remember I was going through a growth phase in my business. And for me, it's always been about, you cannot outperform your energy. You cannot outperform your self-image. You can't sustainably do it. So it was years ago, and I was running a 3-day event called Your $1 Million Message. And events, I don't know if people run them, they are frigging expensive to run. They take a ton of energy. And so I went into this event. We'd been pretty successful in selling tickets. That was excellent. And I can remember walking in, and as the doors opened, and I used to do my events like Tony Robbins style. So I'd have an MC and I'd get everybody to stand and clap. And then I'd like burst open the doors and walk in. Like, this is just, oh my gosh, it's just hilarious. I was just, I was like, it works for Tony. It's going to work for Eleanor. Okay. So I did this and I can remember walking in, and what surprised me was there were so many women I'd never seen before I didn't know. And for an entrepreneur, when you were really getting out, you're getting people to spend their money to come be with you for days. You don't know who they are. That's a great thing. It shows that stuff is working. But I experienced so much imposter syndrome. And by the
Hmm.
end of that day, I was starting to notice I had a really sore throat. And the next morning, my voice was completely gone. One third of the way into a 3-day event called Your $1 Million Message, and I couldn't speak.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got through it. We still made money. It was really hard. It was
You
really
pushed,
stressful.
you pushed through.
Well, I had a team there and they had to do all the talking, but I was pretty traumatized, honestly, by it. To this day, every time I hold an event, I still like worry a little bit and like really make sure that I work with my voice a lot, that it can be healthy. But it was just really what I really saw was there's this partnership between body and spirit and intellect, that it's a pretty mighty partnership, and the body will shut stuff down if you don't listen and you don't pay attention. I wasn't consciously aware that I was stressed or that I wasn't taking care of myself, but in fact that's what was going on. I was running on fumes. Yeah.
Yeah, you were running on fumes. So if you were to fast forward into
Mhm.
your world today, are there steps that you take to prevent that from happening? You briefly said that you do a lot of work with your voice, but what about the rest of your body? Because my audience knows, and I know, that you can't actually silo one part of your body. The losing of your voice showed up that way because that's what's important to you in that moment, and your body needed those signals. But what do you do on a daily or monthly basis to make sure that that doesn't happen? Not just your voice, just body shutdown in general.
I was always sporty. Like I can remember growing up, this was like back before like weight training and stuff. Now everybody's into like eating lots of protein and lifting heavy and all of that. But that's really been in the last 5 years that it's become much more mainstream. When I was growing up, my mom was the only woman in the weight room. There was this one other woman, Charlene, but they were both, I can remember my mom was the only woman in the weight room. She could like bench the 45s up until she was 70. She was a legend. She had this like big afro. She'd be in the weight room. So, and I had to go, like, I would go to the gym with her because they didn't want to get babysitters. And like, I would sit and watch her play squash. And then I would sit just outside the door to the weight room because kids weren't allowed in the weight room. And she would be in there lifting weights. And so we were very sporty. Sports and physical activity and being strong and fit and healthy, these were things that were very much a part of the cultural fabric of my family. But rest and self care were not really. Or
Mm.
I didn't, I didn't really value rest or really taking care of myself. So what I found was that I was really good at anything that required kind of driving, you know,
I can relate.
yeah, and not so good at resting. I also started to experience when I was in my fees, I for the first time ever got like muffin top. Like I was at like hurting my back and I got muffin top. And I remember I didn't even know because I was like, this had never been. So I was like, I don't have muffin top. And then I saw this picture of myself. I was at an event. I was speaking at an event. There was a photographer and I saw the picture of myself. I'm like, what in God's name is that? And I was like, that, my dear, is muffin top. And I was like, wow. So I had 2 kids. I'm working all the time. I'm not getting my steps in. Like I remember my trainer was like, do you have you ever considered a step counter? I'm like, a step counter, like these basic people who are counting their steps, like they're walking around their house to get extra steps. Oh, hell no, that's basic AF. And she's like, you might want to. And so I put it on. I'm getting like 2,500 steps a day,
Oh, wow.
right? Like I was very sedentary, and it was just the work of running a business, of like trying to make it all. I didn't realize that I thought I was healthy because I trained with a trainer 3 times a week, but I was surviving on caffeine. I was very sedentary in my lifestyle. I was drinking too much wine to relax because I had no life force or energy at the end of the day. So that, it was a gradual process of sort of stacking habits. And now I have a lot of amazing health habits. I also know that I'm just getting started, with many of them, but I can
Right.
get into some of the stuff I do, but it was like this gradual stacking, thankfully, to the gift of Muffin Top. And there's nothing wrong with Muffin Top, by the way. It was just like brand new for me at that time.
I'm also pretty sure that low-rise jeans contributed.
Low rise jeans are a scourge. They are a scourge. Yeah.
Just thinking back, you said about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right.
okay, yeah, 15 years ago, what was in style? Oh, yeah,
Low
yeah,
rise. Low
low-rise
rise.
jeans.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, I would love to actually, okay, you know what? Before I get into that, this habit stacking, this like
Mhm.
slow habit stacking, this is what is so imperative. So if somebody, is coming into my world, they know they have something going on that they want to address, but they often think that if they don't do it all right now, that they're failing.
Yeah.
But you are proof that,
Mhm.
and I would say I am also proof that it takes time. And it's not about the quick fix. And it's not about doing everything right or you're a failure. It's slow implementation. And I'm sure you could relate this to your business. And I'd love your input on that. Slow implementation of habits over time. That consistency is what is actually giving you the energy capacity or, the life force
Yeah.
to live your life.
Well, it's like, whether we're talking about a body or a business, I could give somebody $1 million business. Like I could just give it to them. Just like you could give someone this like smoking hot body. And could they actually maintain it? Would they know how to look after it? Would they know how to do it over and over again? No, because so often we're so focused on the outcome that the main thing is the person who creates that outcome. It's like, are you a person who can actually have the thing versus just having the thing? I think there's a fundamental difference between those two things. And for me, I've really learned like it's about becoming a person who's capable of having the thing. So like it started with just getting an Apple Watch and starting to get my steps, like just starting to see my steps. And I've been sort of step counting for years now. I became a basic AF step counter. So there were a few things. So I will say the number one habit that I think has been most important has been to pay. When
I love
we pay attention. Like I just, I spend a lot of money on health. I have an amazing, health coach and strength and nutrition coach, basically. Would not hesitate to spend more on health oriented things. I have been working with her. Like I pay the money, And so what that does for me is I pay and I pay attention. So I pay. And then I always get to have, I have great workouts programmed for me that are in accordance with my goals. I have, like, that's how I learned about macros. So, my sort of core fundamentals, my habit stacking was continuing to do weight training. And I've been doing weight training for over 20 years now, but really sort of taking it more seriously and lifting as heavy as I could. So I do that. So that's like a fundamental thing. And I love weight training. Like when I lift heavy weights, like really heavy weights, I'll like finish the set and I basically want to eat everybody in the gym for dinner. It's like this surge of like unstoppability, like don't even, you know what I mean? People might be like, what is wrong with that person? And I'm like, if you know that Xena warrior princess energy of being really strong AF, then if you want to eat people too. No, just kidding. So I do like, there's weight training. It's like one, steps are another.
it.
Like I have my sort of macros. So I really track what I eat because if I don't, I almost always undereat, oddly. Like I don't eat enough if I don't track. It's weird.
That's not unusual. I would say 90% of the women that I work with struggle to get in enough food during the day.
We're just constantly under, I'm so tired. Well, maybe if we learn to, so it's like those things are really key, So weight training, steps, and nutrition. The next thing that is probably the most important to me is sleep. So I have a fundamental sleep routine. So at 8 p.m., I run my bath. It takes me 12 minutes to fill my bath. And then I'm in my bath for 20 minutes. And so I'm out of my bath at like 8:40 p.m. And then that gives me a whole other basically hour and a half before I fall asleep. And so, in that time I read, I sort of like do some tidying up. and I do an evening meditation that really helps me prepare myself for my sleep state. And I've really learned to like love my sleep state and my dream life and that like really healing dark. So I really, really, that is like fundamentally important to me, like getting a lot of rest and sleep. That's like a major, major ritual. And then I have like a morning meditation that I do. I have like warm lemon and honey water. I try to get a bit of sunlight. But these are like, you know, to me, rituals are like the heartbeat of your life, and it
Yes.
makes they just elevate as well, so that, you know, you don't feel like you're just putting in your time. It feels like you're creating these things that kind of elevate life, and that creates a lot of joy for me.
Absolutely. Oh, I just like, I almost felt your passion for your sleep state through
Oh,
the screen. Cause my goodness, like my sleep is so important to me that there is literally nothing but my son that
yes.
stops me
Yeah.
from my sleep routine, because I would say in my world, sleep comes before, in terms of importance, my
Yeah.
activity level. So
Yeah.
activity level is very important,
Yeah.
but without that restorative piece of my day, I'm actually going to be doing more harm with
Yeah.
my, 15,000 steps and my intense lifting session.
Yeah.
So that sleep ritual is so, so important. And I think a piece that many women miss. I
Totally.
say restorative sleep because there's many women who get 7 hours of sleep,
Hmm.
but it's actually not that great quality, because
Yeah.
they either have something going on in their body that's
Mhm.
preventing it. Because I don't know if you know this, but if you have a gut imbalance or if you have a hormone imbalance, and women who are perimenopausal and postmenopausal will kind of understand this. If you have a hormone imbalance, those things don't stop because you're sleeping.
Mm.
And it is like a constant stressor on your body. And so, yeah, you're awake during the day and you're fine and you're pushing through life because you have to. But when your body is in a restful state, it's going to show up there too. And often it shows up by waking you up
Mm.
or not having a restful sleep, because your body can't actually rest. So I want to ask you, you have your sleep ritual.
Mhm.
You have this
I love
glorious,
so much. Yeah.
yeah, you have this glorious night's sleep that you like, when you wake up in the morning, you look forward to your sleep
Yes, I
ritual,
really
right?
do.
When you wake up, you do your meditation, you have your honey and lemon water, which sounds amazing. How does that set you up for your workday? And how does that impact your workday? What if you miss these routines? What does your workday look like?
Well, find that, so one of the things that I've struggled with is being all or nothing.
Hmm.
So, what I've really trained myself to do is that if I miss the routine, like get your routine done, girl, do it. Like the same way that I would, sort of when my kids were little and they didn't want to brush their teeth, I'm standing there, I'm going to make them brush. They're brushing their teeth. It's happening. This is part of the ritual. I try to be my own parent that way, because sometimes I just don't want it. Like, it's weird. Sometimes you just want to stay up late and do nothing for no
Sure.
reason. You just don't want to go to bed. So I make myself, I really try to take care of myself in that way. But I have found that I try not, as long as I'm mostly implementing my routine, occasionally I won't. And I almost always notice it's almost like a fear. Like, if I didn't do my routine this morning,
Mm.
is that going to screw up my day? And one of the things that I have noticed in myself is right now, something I'm working on is that I can be very all or nothing. So it's like we're going to the wall or not at all. And so an example is something that I'm working on right now is I used to travel a lot. And every time I would travel, I would get sick. And so I had this belief that when I travel, I get sick. So I am in a different place health wise now. And this was like coming around like muffin top era. You know what I mean? I would get sick every time, like terrible, like pneumonia.
Oh,
Now I no longer get sick when I travel. However, I tend to not eat as well when I travel,
of course.
and I have a girlfriend who travels all the time, and she's like, that doesn't have to be true. In fact, it can be easy and fun to eat really well when you travel. So I was telling my coach, like, I'm preparing because I'm going to be away for 2 weeks, traveling for 2 weeks in June. I'm talking to my coach about it. And I'm like, I just sometimes like, I just kind of eat whatever I want and order whatever I want on the room service menu. And she's like, oh, that sounds like an all or nothing mentality. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right.
There it is.
So, right there it is. And so it's really about, for me, one thing I'm working on is trying to, even when I get out of my consistent routine, how can I not be all or nothing about that? Like, how can I bring a bit more of a mature outlook to what I'm doing, trusting that most of the time I stick to my routine. But if my routine shifts slightly, am I going to be the kind of person that allows that to ruin my day, to, like, just no.
Good for you. Good for you. That's not an easy mindset to talk your way out of.
No.
I would say I literally have a saying that I have said for 15 years that is, how you do one thing is how you do all things.
Yes.
And I live by that. Right. So I very much relate to your sort of all or nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that in my own health journey, I've had to do that similar coaching, like, okay, well, like maybe, 40 grams of protein is not available in this meal today. Is it going to kill me? No, it's fine for today.
Yes, totally.
Right. So having that balance is really important. How would you say this habit stacking, this, slow consistency of habit stacking in your health has impacted your revenue, if it has at all?
100%. It totally has, in a couple of different ways. So it's like, you need to have energy and like force and vibrancy to be willing to continuously take risks that we need to take to meet life that as it happens that day, and it sounds like such a basic, simple thing. But when you get up in the morning, if you don't have this bedrock of well-being and energy, I notice that I start to feel some anxiety. I start to feel worried about things. When things get hard, I think about how I can backtrack or why I shouldn't have done it versus leaning in and going for it.
Yes.
So, right. And I think this is very important for women as we get older, because as we get older, we have more and more to lose. And it is really easy to get really old. And the way that you get really old is by focusing more on what you have to lose than being willing to continue to show up every day and take risks to continue to grow and innovate and evolve. And I just see this, and I can see it in people. Like, I see it in my contemporaries. I ran into some friends the other day, and we always used to play soccer together, and none of them play anymore. And I'm 47. And they're like, I can't believe you're still playing. And in my view, I'm like, girl, I can't believe you're not. Like, I can't believe you're not playing soccer. What happened? What happened? You know what I mean? And they've got all kinds of good reasons. By the way, I'm not judging them, but well, maybe that sounded actually very judgy. Sorry, guys. That's not, I'm not, but you know what I mean? It's like, I'm aware that Lifeforce, like, you can't take it for granted. It underwrites everything that you do. And the key to a great life is to continue innovating and taking risks. And the willingness to do that takes Lifeforce vibrancy and energy. And if you don't have it, you won't do it. And I just see people getting old, not innovating, not, and this girl is not going down like that. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, I'm with you. It almost drives me to do more.
Yeah.
It drives me to go, no, that's not me. That's not my story. I'm not doing that.
No, I'm not doing it. Because it's right when you have like the most, you have resources, you have smarts, you have confidence, you have all of this going together. And if you allow yourself to not have that energy, it's like, oh my gosh, like all those years that we were so insecure, all those years that we were broke, that we didn't have the resources that we have, all those, we would have killed for this. And now we have it. And we're like, no, I think I'll just, I'll sit this one out. Oh, hell no. Hell to the no.
I'm with you. I am with you. I'm with you on that. So something that I see in women, mid-age, midlife, perimenopause, menopause, that 40 to 60 range.
Yep.
The women who have all the resources, the women who are, those women.
Yes.
They're not stepping, you made a post about this a couple of weeks ago. They're not stepping on stage, these entrepreneurs, they're not stepping on stage with their gray streaks. They're not stepping on stage in a wardrobe that doesn't look good on them. They're not stepping on stage without their fresh Botox, their fresh nails. I'm not saying everybody does all of these things, but you made a post about how these things should be business expenses for women because
Totally.
they're expensive, one, and we do it because we want to show up in our best light,
Yes.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
The point I want to make to that is like, what if you had to show up online or, in your business or whatever with, your roots gray, they're not touched
Yeah.
up, or would it make you self-conscious, or just a general opinion, would it make women self-conscious in that way, that there was just like this thing, or if your clothes didn't fit the way you wanted them to because maybe your muffin top,
Yeah.
would that be something that would just be like sort of nagging you, just like sitting in your mind, like, oh God, I'm not actually showing up?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I am going to preface this by saying, like, I was having dinner with a group of girlfriends recently and we were discussing Botox, and we were talking about, getting Botox. And I asked them, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how vain are you? Because this is an important question. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
and I think how you, how you answer that question impacts, you know what I mean? So I know that there are some women, some of my girlfriends, super close girlfriends, who they don't care. You know what I mean? Like they spend zero energy or life force thinking about stuff, like this. And so they have the gift of radical self acceptance, but maybe they, because they aren't as vigilant as I would be about certain things, maybe they don't quite have the same health levels. Like
Right.
it's totally give and take, right? I would put myself at an 8 or an 8.5 on the vanity scale. So not, we're not ranking tens here, but we're fairly significant. So for me, if I don't feel on my game, in terms of the first place for me is always like, hey, am I fit and strong?
Sure.
That's just a lifelong thing from when I was a little girl. I want to be fit and strong. I want to have a physique that I'm proud of. You could say I'm totally a victim of the patriarchy here, and I don't disagree. That may or may not be true. I don't spend a ton of my time thinking about it in that way, but I know it's a thing. But it does bother me. It's like this, it's just this little thing where I don't feel like I'm showing up 100%. And I like to show up 100%. I like to, it's a self-image thing. I like to look well put together and be well put together. And, so that is very important to me. And for me, I don't feel like 100% when I'm not showing up that way.
I completely agree. And I would say that 100% of the women that I work with don't even realize that they aren't showing up
Yeah.
the way they want to.
Yeah.
They describe it as low energy or lack of motivation. It comes out of their mouth in that way. But when we start to work on those little habits, or eliminating some bad gut bugs or balancing hormones or whatever it might look like for them, I often watch their creativity get better, their boundaries get better. Like they actually start showing up in their life, whether it's, in their work or in their family life, they actually start showing up because they don't have this little nagging thing, like, the gray hair or the outfit that doesn't fit them properly or whatever. They don't have these little nagging things that are going on in their bodies anymore. So therefore, it's not this little nagging thing on their mind, and they are literally free. They have the vitality, the life force, the energy capacity to step into their world and actually live life the way they always imagined, so much more effortlessly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Really powerful.
If you could tell a female founder, an entrepreneur, a woman, a high functioning woman, A type, somebody very similar to you and I,
Yes.
where to start, what would you say?
Hire
Yeah.
help. Like I just don't even, I just have not messed around with this for a long time. Like, there are people, I'll give you an example. Sometimes I'll go into the gym and I'll see people that I know and they're in their 40s and they're trying to get in shape and they're on the treadmill, sweating away, doing what is probably zone 3 or zone 4 cardio for like 40 minutes. I'm like, girl, stop right now. Like that is not, and I used to be that. Like I used to really love these like high intensity workouts, not realizing how counterproductive they were, like how much they were wearing me out and draining me. exercise science and body science and our understanding of nutrition, don't even get us started on the advances in our understanding around hormones and the gut biome. There's such massive advancements. And unless you're kind of working with somebody who understands this stuff, you're in the Stone Ages. Like, you are literally in the Stone Ages. There have been massive advancements. Like, it's interesting. I'm a director of the business school at our local university, and it's one of the professional faculties. The other professional faculty is kinesiology, and kinesiology is one of the most oversubscribed study. Like, everybody wants to get in on kinesiology because there's so much advancement there. Like, we understand how vital and important health is. All
Yes.
of which is to say, it kills me when really smart women cheap out on their health. They don't get help. They try to do it all themselves. They are following a program. It's like, hey, the 1950s called. They want their diet and exercise plan back. Because girl, like, you're in the Stone Ages. And this sounds like I'm being very provocative about this, but I'm just like, spend the money. Your health, your well-being is your most important asset. Why are you cheaping out? Don't do that. So that, to me, yeah, of course, like, get your steps and all of that. But you know what? Who are you going to report to that you're not doing it?
Right.
Like, I'm not showing, you know what I mean? I have to report every week what I'm doing and what I'm not doing,
Yeah.
and I like, you pay to pay attention. So I say, hire help, stop trying to figure it out on your own. Let's do this.
Accountability is
Yes.
everything in that world.
And knowledge and an education. Like, I have learned, I did not know how to feed myself properly. There was so much I didn't understand about health. It took me literally 18 months to learn how to eat properly. Oddly, like, I was so undernourished. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's awesome to be here.
Where can people find you?
They should connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Eleanor Beaton, or you can check out safimedia.co.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.